Have you ever wondered what the best way to spend your training points are as a max level Storm Wizard in PvP? Well, look no further, I got y'all in today's video. Now, I'm somebody who hit Warlord on Storm. I'm actually the first Storm Warlord at max level, and the only legit one as well. And I'm going to help you guys with using your training points in today's video. The first spell you're going to want on a Storm is going to be Writing the Scales. You get that from Al Hazred right here. Just go ahead and train. You have to spend, I think, how many training points? I mean, I guess we'll find out. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 training points to get this. This is going to be the only spell you want from here. The rest are garbage. So you're going to want to put max skills in your deck, depending on what deck size it is. It'll be 4 or 6, but most of you probably it'll be 4 copies of Writing the Scales. Next up, you're going to want Stun Block. You get that from Diego, the Duel Master, right here. I pack Stun Block in main deck because you don't have to worry about TC then. And the way I cycle, I typically always pull this like 95% of the time. So you're going to want to get Stun Block and Scales as your first 2 main things. Now we're going to go ahead and go to Ravenwood and take a look at a couple of these spells here. So we have minor shield counters, trap counters, we need weakness counters, blade counters, and like heal and dot counters, right? So we're Storm, we don't need to go to the Storm School. Ice is pretty good for weakness counters, either Myth or it's Ice. Myth weakness counters are really, really bad, to say the least. Not very good spells, unfortunately. So you're going to want to train into Ice for your weakness counters. Now, on a Storm, I've used Vexation and I've used Fortress. Now, personally, in my opinion, guys, I'm a little bit more biased towards Fortress. Now, the reason I like Fortress over Vex is because, you know, you're a Storm. You're supposed to counter overtimes, right? If you have multiple of the same shields, they're going to be incentivized to want to overtime you, right? Also, Vexation gets ping-ponged, so you're going to be holding on to that and clogging your deck and waiting for them to do it, right? And if they don't do it, you're going to be at a disadvantage, but if you just Fortress, you'll be fine, and you can go from there. Not to mention, if they shield counter, like Jin's Defense or something like that, you're probably going to be holding on to a shield counter on a Storm anyways, so Fortress is a lot better on a Storm, guys. You could try to run like Snow Pig or Evil Snowman, but they're not that good because they're not chromatic. Like Snowman traps gives you ice traps, and you don't really use ice traps because why would you? And like I said, they're not chromatic, so they're pretty bad. So right now, you're gonna definitely want to have max Fortresses in with how good Death is right now in the meta. So as a recap, we have Stun Block, Weakness Counters, and Trap Counters right now. That's going to be everything we're going to want from the School of Ice. Next up, we have Fire. Now, Fire, you're not going to really want a lot of cards. Fire isn't that great right now, you know, with dual schooling Storm. You can get Oni's Forge, but that's not really that good because, you know, the heal is really bad, and it's not instant. And you can't even set it up in one turn like before with the Jin, and heal overtimes are naturally the worst out of all hanging effects because they run out before they can use them, and your opponent can just waste them out, basically. Jin's Reversal does nothing for you on a Storm, because obviously you have no overtimes. Same thing with Backfire, just a really, really crappy card, you know, just can't do much with it. You could get Elephant, but it's not that good, unfortunately. You know, you could Elephant, and if they shield, you have a Storm thing, so I guess it's kind of decent, but it's not really that good at that point. You'd probably just want a Minotaur, right? So personally, what I recommend is just probably going for Glacial Shield. Glacial's good because it's good against, you know, Hydra, it's good in Storm Mirrors, and it's really good against Ice, which counters you. So that's all you're going to want to get from the School of Fire. Next up, we have Myth. Now, Myth doesn't really have a lot of great stuff, unfortunately. You know, for Storm, you can get shield counters here, I guess, which is pretty solid. I have a Minotaur in right now, which is kind of mid. in my opinion. I've seen people get Jin's Defense and stuff like that. Illusion and Betrayal don't work because they're not chromatic. They're pretty useless on a Storm. So if you're going to get anything from here, you're basically just going to want to get Minotaur and Jin's Defense, guys. Alright, next up we have Life. Now, you're supposed to have a lot of synergy with Life as a Storm, but right now you just kind of don't really have that, unfortunately. On a Life, I'd recommend getting Legend Shield. Now, this one's pretty good. So is Ether Shield. I don't think one's better than other. I prefer Legend Shield because if you manipulate myths to Tower, then Betrayal, then Legend Shield, then Betrayal, you can knock off 2 rounds of theirs in one and gain tempo on them. Not to mention, Death right now counters Storm, and Death is really overtuned right now in general as well in the meta. So they can't Steel Ward this if you're a Death, so it's pretty good, and I do like it. The rest of the life spells are pretty bad for Storm, unfortunately. You can get traps to heals, but that doesn't really matter when you're dead, right? You don't really need any more overtime counters either. You could go ahead and train Sanctuary if you would like. You don't need it on a Storm, but I don't mind training it to have, you know, 1 or 2 extra bubbles against like an Ice, for example. Or to keep your pips up and like run out of Brace, which is also meta right now. The rest of these cards are pretty bad. Oni's Naturalism is decent, but they don't give you Storm Blades. They give you Life Blades that are useless. You can't really leverage them on a Storm right now. And you also have Centaur, but the problem with Centaur is dual school accuracy is extremely hard to come by. It's a lot of pips, and the blades are really trash. You could try running Centaur if you're having a problem with trap stack, you know. I wouldn't really recommend going the Naturalism route because you would have to pack Naturalism, then pack something to ramp the blades, and then pack another card to use. It's a 3-step process that's just too much. Just pack 1 counter and go from there because it'll take way too much of your deck size and be way too situational. I have seen players have success with Tranquility, but right now with how one-shotty the meta is, it's just really not that good at the moment unless you are jading like a Life. If you want to go the route of Centaur, you can run this setup where I have max accuracy to basically every school. I have 2 universal accuracy slots basically, so I can't fizzle a Centaur at the moment. So I'd recommend having Scales and 1 or 2 Centaurs in your deck with this setup, and then 2 Minnows and 2 JDs for shields. So we've basically covered everything you're gonna want so far with your training points. You could get some death spells, I guess, but it's not really worth it on a Storm. You know, all the death spells on a Storm are pretty trash. The only one you're gonna want is Banshee, and TC Banshee is better because it's more accessible and it's already max tiered for you, right? So you might as well just put this inside. Pretty easy to farm, pretty easy to craft, and you don't have to clog up your main deck or waste training points. So definitely put this inside deck, guys. So all that leaves us with is the auras, and you know, that's really about it, right? So we're gonna go ahead and go to the Arcanum and check out the auras. So we could go ahead and get Galvanic here. You could get Frenzy if you want, but it's kind of trash. Not that good on a Storm, in my opinion. Brace is okay as well, but I'm not really a fan of it on a Storm, personally. I think Galvanic is just a lot better on a Storm right now in the current meta, so just go ahead and get Galvanic from here, guys. That's really all you're gonna need. So at this point, your deck is gonna look like this. A quarter to half of your deck will be counters and dual school stuff. We have shields for fire, you know, stun block, and weakness counters for ice. Obviously, we're Storm. Shield counters for myth, you know, sanctuary and trap counters. The Centaur on a Life. Nothing for death because we have that inside, and the death stuff sucks on a Storm. Balance, we have Scales. Astral, we have Galv, and that's really about it. So now to get to our actual Storm spells. I'd love to pack Blades in main, but I just can't, you know. Not enough room ever. You're probably gonna want at least 1 Queen. Berry's good, but you never have enough space for it. Probably 4 Stormies, or sorry, 4 Dark Winds. 2 Catalans works pretty good for me. If you don't pull it, either cycle harder or pack 3. Don't really need more than that, typically. 3 catches are really good. Then obviously we're going to throw in our Shads here. Now I am running a little bit low on deck space, as y'all can see, so I'm going to take out a couple of Strikes here. I'm only going to add in 2 Dark and Stormy because I don't really need more than that, you know. Right now in the meta, Dark and Stormy is pretty bad because it just gets stolen. You do the damage, and then they spend 2 or 4 pips that isn't a Shad, and they get all the damage back when you use a Shad and they use 2 pips, right? So I don't like packing a lot of those. I pack about 3 to 4 Rusolka. So the only thing we're missing right now in this deck is like normal hits like Leviathan, King Artorias, you know. What you could do is take out a couple of cards and run a King Artorias, which I actually really like and do prefer actually on the Storm right now. Then you can just kind of fill in the blanks with like shads if you feel like you need an extra shad or anything like that, basically. And that's kind of basically your deck setup at that point. So yeah, that's the deck I will be running right now, guys. I hope this video was helpful. If you enjoyed it, let me know down there in the comments below. I guess, by the way, real quick here before I leave, we'll obviously pack things we're missing in main deck inside. So for example, blades will go inside deck, you know, universal stuff like power, pierce, weakness, and power, banshee, steel ward, reshuffle, all goes inside, right? So yeah, actually I'm an idiot. I forgot to pack a Rusolka. Sorry guys. I'm such a moron. I run there we go. I missed a Rusolka. So that's really all I have for y'all. Again, you can try this out and tweak it out to your liking if you would like, and let me know how it goes down there in the comments below. Thank y'all for watching, and I will see you guys on the next one, and as always, take care, y'all.